this is, to me, I think one of the most important issues this town faces for a lot of reasons. And I think it's one where at the end of the day, the decision, I agree strongly with the mayor. Let's first set a little bit of reality here. In fact, the United States, and sort of a big picture and kind of shrink this in, the United States lived for many, many years with manufacturing. It was a reality. They created jobs for my parents and all, probably most of the people here in the world, different factory workers, provided a living for this town, made this town. And one of the bad things of that era in our country was that it contained pollution, and now we have brownfields all across Connecticut. That's a reality. And those companies were never held responsible for those properties. So the people of Connecticut now have to figure a way out of the long-term problem of these brownfields scattered out across Connecticut. It's real. And there's no businesses that are going to bail us out of that problem. So it's being left to government. Okay? It's true. There's nobody else going to do it. No investor's going to come in and buy that property and spend whatever it takes to clean up that remediation. When you ask what the plan is, in my mind, I'm not speaking for the board, is the only way it's going to happen is a partnership between federal, state, local government, working with some developer to build something on this site. Same concept we had when we talked about Renaissance Place. Alex Conway was coming in, and he had no intention of cleaning up that site. He was looking for that partnership with us, the state and federal money, to get the money to clean up that site. That was envisioned from the very beginning with Renaissance Place. It's still envisioned today. The difference here is that by gaining site control, which we didn't have for Renaissance Place, we would be, our plan, I think, is to reach out to state and federal government to look for funds to start that process, to do it now while the economy is not good, to start putting out ideas to get developers to come to us now to talk about it. And there's some developers still spending money, not a lot, but they're out there, and they're looking for the future. We need to do that. We need to continue cleaning up the property where we can, the hot spots. We've already done all the environmentalists to find out what the problems are. Now we put out there, search for that developer, and let them know that we have control. We can work with you. And we're the conduit with the state and federal government for the money for brownfields. So what we're doing is putting Longtown in position for the long term to get out of this brownfield situation and to invest in the future of this town. Guarantee on that. It's a common sense plan to try to get from where we are to where we want to be. I don't know if it's going to work. You know, the $2 million number me and the mayor argued about since we started this. You know, some of us would like to get to zero, recognize it. There's no reality in that. The mortgage company was never going to let it go for nothing. So we ended up getting from, we started at $5 million, we got down to $2 million. Do I like it? No. But it's an investment. It's an investment this town, I think, has to make. Because we can't have a lot of that downtown out of the it is now 50 years. So the plan is simple. We're going to coordinate with everybody to work to get a developer in to reinvest in that. One of the things that me and Mary talked about years ago, Renaissance, was that we didn't want a big box retailer. There's different supermarkets that have looked at the GDC property. Do you want some big box store with a big parking lot downtown? Is that what we want? Downtown Lubbock to be one big box, and that's it? And we agreed with you on that. We wanted to have a combination of retail, time and Renaissance factor, and condominiums or residential to support that retail, some commercial use, a mixture of use, what the mayor refers to as smart growth. We still want that. And that would be a fair goal to continue finding a developer that offers us that smart growth. Do we know what that developer is right now? No. But that's what I think the next 2 years should be. Finding who that developer is and connecting to the state.
If I may, just, the gentleman asked earlier about, what is the plan? The plan that was born, or the vision that was born by Alex Conway for downtown Naugatuck is still the same plan, the same vision that both the NEDC and the Borough Board have for what good Naugatuck can look like. That's a reality. It can happen. We've said it more than a few times and more than a few different ways this evening that one of the hurdles that Alex, and it was not for lack of trying, But one of the hurdles that he had to overcome was gaining control of that parcel, the GDC parcel. He couldn't do it, and he offered a lot of money that was turned down. We happen to be in a very fortunate position that we're able to maintain or obtain the property for a price that you can argue, as Ron Sanangelo said, should we be able to get it for nothing? Yeah, probably should. You can make a legitimate argument that we should be able to get it for nothing. The reality is, we're not going to be able to get it for nothing. And the other reality is that if we as a town don't take control of that property, we will be sitting here, as the mayor said, 20 years from now, looking at a big, ugly, empty hole filled with used cars. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be fixed. Now, what I can tell you, and even prior to May, when the Renaissance Development Agreement expired, we have been approached, we, the NEDC, Dave Prendergast, who is our hired person that runs the NEDC, has been approached by no fewer than 5 or 6 people from all over the country. What's going to happen once Renaissance Place ends? I want in. The mayor and I and a few other people have sat with a couple of developers that we, at the time, even though the general datacom thing was continuing to percolate, and we really thought we were going to make this thing happen, we couldn't tell those developers at the time, and they were just interested in the parcel C property and potentially this property. So we listened to them, we looked at their proposals, and we said, as soon as we're going to be in a position to put RFPs out, we'll get you on the list. So we've got handfuls of people that are ready, willing, and able once we have control of that property. So we as a town, if we want to just deal with 2.5 or 3 acres of parcel C and however many acres or less than an acre of property, probably 1.5 acres of property that we have here, we can do that. But we're still going to be looking at a really ugly hole in the center of downtown. Now, I've been here my entire life. My family's 5 generations strong in this town. We've got 3 mayors sitting on the board of Mayor and Burgesses. We got another mayor here. You've got the people that you've entrusted with the decisions to make this town a better place. So the concept is, we could let this thing go. $2 million to have control of our destiny is a very, very small price to pay. And you can argue over whether we pay cash for it or whether we pay an extra 0.8 of a percentage point in order to have the flexibility to flip the property quicker as opposed to being tied into bonds. We can argue that all day long. But we as a community would be remiss if we know there are developers out there, we know there are people that want to develop this property, we know that our vision, both the NEDC's vision and the Borough Board's vision, it's the same. Transit-oriented, mixed-use, downtown that's going to look like our green and is going to be proud us to look back as our forefathers, whether it was the Whittemores or the Tuttles or all the people that built this architecture around town. That's what we're going to make it look like. We have a special zone district that hasn't been applied yet that is going to make sure that it looks like what we want it to look like. I envision the NEDC, just to simplify it, as becoming as much as we were overseeing the Renaissance project, which didn't happen with one preferred developer, the NEDC is going to become like a general contractor for these parcels in downtown. Maybe we're going to find one developer, and obviously anything that we do, the NEDC board has to approve, but the Board of Mayor and Burgesses has to approve. So there's a check and balance system that's been built into this process, so it's not like we're just going to go out and do anything. But what I envision is that the NEDC will become a general contractor that will either work with one or multiple developers to develop all of the properties that we have control over to make our downtown under the special zoning district look like the way we've envisioned it since we envisioned Renaissance Place. You know, we went from Ron, we went to Mike and Bob, and you know, Mrs. Taft started it when she envisioned with your son and Bob, what do we need to do to make economic development appropriate in the town of Naugatuck. So we're here, and it is not, it's well over a year's worth of work. And yes, it may appear that all of a sudden this just cropped up, but the NEDC board has been involved and on board, the Board of Mayor and Burgesses, the Board of Finance. This has been a long, very discussed conversation, and I feel very passionate about the fact that we as a community should move forward on this thing.
But just one more point. Jay made a strong point, is that, you know, the $2 million now that you pay, people think that we're going to be able to take this thing by eminent domain for $1 or whatever. And he's right, the mortgage company's not going to let it go. And I think if the town people realize that, we're not going to be able to get it for nothing. The $2 million is a small price to pay for ownership of the entire property at this point. Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
because we're not going to be able to, even if they go under, even if they go into foreclosure, I would love to say, oh, let them go into foreclosure and take it by eminent domain, and that's the end of it. It's not going to
Well,
happen.
the fact of the matter is, if we take it, if we were to take it under eminent domain, we would have to pay 125% of fair market value. And fair market value right now, that property is almost $5 million. So we'd have to pay 125% of $5 million. So in my mind, a $2 million price tag to control our destiny is a cheap price to pay. We'd be foolish not to, as a community.
I guess you know, I agree with everything that you said and stuff. I think just as a taxpayer, I think the only part that I have is the uncertainty. In the world now, and this has nothing to do with you, this is no disrespect to anybody up there, but the world right now is against the government. It's the taxpayer against the government. And that's not to say I have any disrespect, because I don't, okay, and hopefully it's not taken here, but when there's so much uncertainty and so much risk in this project, and there is, okay, and I'm not saying it's not a good investment, and I'm not thinking we're going to get it for $1. I'm realistic. $2 million, $3 million, doesn't really matter. Whether we bond or whatever we do, doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is, I think as for myself, I'd just be a little more, I would just feel a little better if I actually kind of knew a better plan, that's all. You know, as opposed to, and I know you guys didn't just drop this down. You guys have been working on this for a long time. I talked to Ron, so, and hopefully Alex is still going to play the basketball thing. But, and that's the only thing, it's just that maybe a little better.
What, you know, the only thing I just want to comment on your
So,
comments about government. I mean, I've been involved in a variety of fashions with government in this town for a long, long period of time. And I have to say that right now, we have one of the best functioning governmental bodies with this Board of Mayor and Borough Citizens. No, I understand. I mean, I wouldn't say the same thing about our federal government or our state government. I have some very strong opinions about that, and I'm not going to go there. But one of the things, and I alluded to it before when I was talking, the town of Naugatuck right now has a very functional governing board. It's not partisan. It's got all of the best interests of the people in this town in its heart. And there is lively discussion. We have many lively discussions about how things should or shouldn't happen. But you know what? These guys know what they're doing. And we got to, the NEDC recommends what we think should happen as a group of business people and other entities within the town. But they're the ones that have to make the decision. And they're doing a hell of a good job so far. And so you've got to have some faith, as the mayor said earlier, you elected these people. You gave them your trust to make the decisions for this town. Let them do their job.
I don't think it's a question of trust in the board. I don't think any mayor has ever, anyone's ever served in any elected officials have ever been not have the trust of the people of the United States of this town. It's just that you're opening yourself to spend $2 million and you gave just a big black hole as to what it's going to cost. It's basically a sliver of land, 10 acres with a very pretty piece of property on it. You know, what are you going to do for Rosenblatt? What are you going to do for, you know, like the general ones around here? They're all going to scream and yell, but what's really going to happen is what's going to happen with Rubber Avenue.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I think that's a good point. When we started talking about the Renaissance Place, a lot of the businesses down in town were very concerned. Okay? This is their concern when you go to Walmart or whatever. But by the time we discussed it among the businesses in town, I would have to say that 90% of them had pro-Renaissance signs on their windows for the referendum. And the reason was because the more they thought about it, the more they understood it, the more people you bring down to downtown Naugatuck, the better it is for everyone. And they became, you know, the sad part about Renaissance Places was a wonderful vision that we never got to. And probably my favorite thing about it was that it was the first time I heard a lot of people excited about the vision of what Lodge would be. And the sad part of what happened to the economy is that people have lost that vision. You know, we need, in my opinion, you don't get anywhere without a vision. And we need to recreate the vision. I think our village would be happy as hell if there was another 500 employees downtown in GDC was. I think we saw a lot more grinders, a lot more done. We need to find what that answer is for our village, because do you think downtown August is doing good right now? Closes at 5 o'clock, and you wonder sometimes during the day if it's open. So we need to create a life downtown August. I wish I knew what that life was, but I don't think that life's going to happen next 5 years.
Government can't bring commerce to an area.
And government is not
Partnership.
government is not going to develop the redevelop the property. But without government's involvement in a parcel with this unique circumstances surrounding it, the numbers don't work in the private sector. I mean, Mayor Brown is right. The problem with